The streets of Lagos Island were alive with noise and color. Yellow danfos honked as conductors shouted destinations. Vendors waved roasted corn and plantain at passers-by, and the air carried the mixed smell of fuel and sea breeze from the nearby lagoon. David walked briskly through the crowd, his worn leather bag slung across his shoulder. He was a young man in his late 20s, neatly dressed though his clothes showed their age. His eyes held ambition, the kind born from years of struggle, but fueled by dreams of a better tomorrow. That afternoon, he stopped at a small cafe tucked between two tall buildings. Inside, the noise of the street faded. The cafe was warm and modern, with glass walls and soft music playing from hidden speakers. David ordered the cheapest cup of coffee, sitting by the corner as he scribbled ideas for a business plan on the pages of his tattered notebook. The door opened, and in walked Amara. She was elegance personified. Her long hair flowed gracefully, her tailored dress hugged her figure, and her soft perfume followed her like a quiet whisper of wealth. Heads turned as she entered, but her eyes settled on the only empty seat, right across from David. "Excuse me, can I sit here?" she asked politely. David looked up, startled by her presence. "Of course," he replied, his voice steady though his heart raced. As she sat, their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. Curiosity, admiration, and the faint spark of fate. They exchanged small talk at first about Lagos traffic and the unbearable heat. But soon, laughter bridged the gap of class and background. For the first time in a long while, David forgot about his worries. Amara, despite her polished life, found herself drawn to his sincerity, his simplicity, and the raw passion in his words. By the time they left the cafe, a connection had been planted, fragile, yet real. And so, on that busy Lagos street, among honking danfos and shouting traders, a love story began. The days that followed were filled with meetings, long calls, and shared moments. David and Amara's worlds could not have been more different, yet they blended like two halves of a whole. David introduced her to his world first. He took her on danfo rides, squeezing through the crowd, making her laugh as the conductor shouted insults at passengers. He held her hand tightly when the bus swerved, protecting her like she was the most precious thing in the world. They walked through Balogun Market, where traders yelled over each other, trying to sell fabrics, shoes, and jewelry. David bought her roasted corn from a roadside vendor, teasing her when she struggled to peel it properly. At night, they ate suya by a roadside stand, sitting close under the dim light of a flickering bulb. Amara, in turn, opened her world to him. She took him to her family's mansion in Banana Island, towering glass walls, marble floors, and chandeliers that sparkled like stars. At first, David felt out of place, but Amara squeezed his hand to remind him he belonged. She invited him to elegant dinners at exclusive restaurants, where soft jazz played and waiters served meals with names he could barely pronounce. David struggled with the cutlery, but made her laugh with his playful jokes. Their love grew stronger with each passing day. For David, Amara was more than a dream come true. She was proof that love could cross barriers of wealth and status. For Amara, David was a breath of fresh air, a man who valued her for who she was and not what she had. But as they laughed and dreamed together, whispers followed them like shadows. People said it could never last. Some said David wanted her money. Others whispered that Amara was foolish to fall for a man without riches. Still, they held on to each other, blind to the storm that was slowly gathering around them. Amara sat at her vanity table one evening, brushing her long hair as soft music played from her phone. She hummed quietly, her mind drifting back to her time with David earlier that day. They had walked along the marina waterfront, laughing like children, and she had never felt so alive. But her joy did not sit well with everyone. Her best friend, Lola, leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Lola was a striking woman with sharp features and an elegance that always commanded attention. She had known Amara since childhood, and while she smiled often, envy brewed beneath her polished exterior. "Amara," Lola began carefully, "you're glowing these days." It must be because of that man. David. Amara turned and smiled warmly. Yes, Lola. He makes me happy. He's different. Lola stepped closer, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. But don't you think it's suspicious? A man like that, with nothing to his name, suddenly in love with you? Be careful. Men like him don't come close to women like us unless they want something. Amara frowned, setting her brush aside. Lola, he's not like that. He doesn't care about my family's money. He cares about me. Lola gave a small, knowing laugh, her eyes narrowing slightly. That's what they all say. Just watch your heart. I'd hate to see you hurt. The words hung in the air like smoke, filling Amara's chest with unease. She loved David deeply, but Lola's warning planted a seed of doubt. She tried to brush it aside, yet it lingered in her thoughts, whispering when the night grew quiet. Still, the next time she saw David, his warmth silenced her fears. For now, love won over doubt. But Lola's shadow had begun to creep into their story. The evening was perfect, a calm night sky, the gentle rustle of leaves, and fairy lights twinkling like stars in the garden behind a cozy Lagos restaurant. A small fountain bubbled softly nearby, casting ripples of light across the stone floor. David paced nervously, his palms sweaty despite the cool night air. His friends had encouraged him to wait, to be sure, but he knew in his heart, Amara was the one. When Amara arrived, dressed in a flowing gown of soft blue, David's breath caught. She looked radiant, her smile brighter than the lights around them. Why are you so quiet tonight? She teased, taking a seat across from him at the candlelit table. David tried to speak, but words failed him. Instead, he rose to his feet, his knees trembling slightly as he reached into his pocket. Amara's eyes widened as he knelt before her, holding out a small velvet box. Amara, he said, his voice steady now, filled with emotion. I may not have riches, I may not have the world to give, but what I have, I will share with you forever. Will you marry me? Tears filled Amara's eyes instantly. For a moment, time stood still. She covered her mouth with one hand, her heart pounding, then nodded quickly. Yes, yes, David, I will. The garden erupted in applause from a few hidden friends David had invited to witness the moment. Amara laughed through her tears as David slipped the ring onto her finger. He rose, pulling her into a tight embrace, both of them trembling with joy. In that moment, the world faded away. No whispers, no doubts, no shadows, only love. But as the night sky stretched above them, unseen eyes were watching. Lola stood in the distance, her expression unreadable, her heart consumed by a dangerous mix of jealousy and anger. The stage was set. The battle between love and betrayal had just begun. The weeks after the proposal should have been filled with joy, but something dark lingered in the background. Wedding plans began, families were introduced, and David worked hard to prove himself worthy of Amara. He visited her home often, facing her father's cold stares and her mother's hesitant smiles. Amara defended him fiercely, insisting he was the man she loved. Yet Lola was not finished. One evening, Amara and Lola sat together in Amara's room, flipping through bridal magazines. Lola's eyes sparkled mischievously as she pulled out her phone. Amara, she said softly, there's something you should see. I didn't want to show you before, but you deserve to know. She handed the phone over. On the screen was a photo of David standing close to another woman outside a small printing shop. The woman's hand rested on his arm, and they were laughing. Amara's chest tightened. Who is she? Lola shrugged with a rehearsed innocence. I don't know, but doesn't it look suspicious? Amara stared at the photo, her heart aching. She trusted David, but the image burned in her mind. That night, when David called, she answered with forced cheerfulness. She didn't mention the photo, but doubt clung to her voice. When they met the next day, she studied him carefully. The way he smiled, the way he spoke, the way his phone buzzed with messages. Every little thing made her wonder if Lola had been right. David, oblivious to the storm brewing in her heart, spoke excitedly about their future. The small house he hoped to buy, the business he wanted to grow, the family they would build together. Amara smiled weakly. hiding her pain. But in her silence, trust began to slip away, piece by piece. Lola knew suspicion wasn't enough. If Amara was to truly leave David, she needed proof, or something that looked like it. One rainy evening, David was working late on a design project at the small printing shop where he freelanced. Lola arrived unannounced, pretending to seek his advice about her business idea. She leaned close, laughing at his jokes, acting as though they shared a private bond. David, uncomfortable, tried to remain polite. "Lola, I think you should talk to Amara about this. She's better at these things." But before he could move away, Lola suddenly stumbled forward, pretending to trip. She clutched his arm dramatically, pressing against him just as the door opened. "David," Amara's voice cracked through the air. She stood frozen at the doorway, her umbrella dripping rainwater onto the tiled floor. Her eyes darted from David to Lola, seeing them too close, too comfortable. David's eyes widened in panic. "Amara, it's not what it looks like," he shouted, stepping forward. But Amara's face was already pale with heartbreak. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she shook her head. "After everything, after all your promises." She dropped the umbrella, turned, and ran out into the rain. David chased after her, calling her name, but the storm drowned his voice. She disappeared into the night, her sobs echoing louder than the thunder above. Lola watched from the doorway, her lips curling into a satisfied smile. She had finally driven the dagger deep into their love. And for David and Amara, the dream of forever shattered in one cruel moment. The following days were a torment for David. He called Amara endlessly. He waited outside her mansion gates, drenched in rain or under the burning sun, pleading with the gatekeeper to let him in. He sent letters, begged her friends to speak to her, and even tried through her mother, but nothing softened her heart. Finally, one evening, Amara agreed to see him. They met in her family's garden, the same place he had once proposed. But the air was colder now, and her eyes held only pain. "Amara, please," David began, his voice trembling. "I swear to you, nothing happened with Lola. She set me up. You know me. I would never betray you." Amara folded her arms, her jaw tight. "David, do you know how many people warned me? They said you were after my money. They said you would disappoint me. And what did I do? I defended you. I stood against my own friends and family for you." He stepped closer, tears burning his eyes. "And you were right, too. Because I love you, Amara, more than anything." She laughed bitterly, though her voice cracked with pain. "Love? Is that what you call sneaking around with other women? Don't insult me." "No," David shouted, falling to his knees. "Please believe me. You're the only woman I've ever wanted. Lola lied to you." Amara cut him off, her voice sharp as a blade. "Enough, David. You should be grateful I even gave you a chance. I was trying to elevate your life, to make you someone respectable. And yet, you chose to spit on that by chasing other women behind my back." David froze, her words cutting deeper than any wound. He raised his head slowly, his face twisted in agony. "So that's how you see me, a project? A poor man you wanted to fix?" Amara's eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained cold. "It doesn't matter anymore. The wedding is off. We're finished." She turned and walked away, leaving David kneeling in the garden where he had once dreamed of forever. His hands dug into the soil, his chest heaving with despair. He had lost her, not because he betrayed her, but because she chose to believe the lie. And the vows they once shared in laughter and love now lay shattered in silence. Months passed, but Amara's heart was never at peace. She tried to smile at work, attend events, and hide her pain, but every night she thought of David, the man she had once loved deeply, the man she had thrown away. One evening, she visited Lola, hoping for company. As she entered the house, quietly, she heard Lola's voice from the sitting room. Amara stopped in the hallway, listening. Amara was so easy to fool, Lola said over the phone, laughing softly. One photo, one stage moment at the shop, and she believed everything. She dumped him herself, and now she's alone while David is rising higher than ever. Amara's heart sank. Her hand trembled against the wall as tears filled her eyes. The truth hit her like a heavy blow, David had never betrayed her. She remembered his desperate eyes, his voice pleading for trust, his endless attempts to explain. He had spoken the truth all along, but she had refused to believe him. When Lola ended the call, she walked into the hallway and saw Amara standing there, frozen in shock. Their eyes met. You did this?" Amara whispered, her voice breaking. Lola sighed, shrugging as if it were nothing. "You should thank me. I only saved you from wasting your life on someone beneath you." Amara's tears spilled freely. Her voice shook as she spoke. "No, Lola, you didn't save me. You destroyed me. You destroyed the only man who ever truly loved me." Without another word, she turned and walked out into the night. Her chest heaved with regret, and her tears blurred the city lights. She knew now that she had lost David forever, not because of his betrayal, but because she had chosen to believe a lie. Amara could not rest after learning the truth. Her nights were filled with tears, and her heart ached with regret. She remembered how David had begged her, how he had stood in the rain at her gates, how he had fallen to his knees in her family garden. She had pushed him away, and now she knew she had been wrong. One morning, she gathered her courage and went to see him. David now owned a small printing company in Yaba. The office was alive with workers, papers, and the sound of machines. Through the glass window, she saw him giving instructions with confidence. He looked different, stronger, more focused, a man who had rebuilt himself. When their eyes met, David froze. The room grew heavy with silence. He dismissed his workers and stood quietly as Amara stepped inside. Her voice trembled. "David, I came to say I'm sorry. I was blind. I let Lola deceive me. You never betrayed me. I see that now." David listened without moving, his face unreadable. Amara's tears fell as she continued. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but if there's still a chance, please give me one." For a long moment, David said nothing. Then he took a deep breath, his voice calm but heavy. "Amara," he said softly, "I loved you with everything I had, but when it mattered most, you didn't trust me. You believe a lie over my heart. That wound cut too deep." Amara's lips quivered. "So this is goodbye?" David nodded slowly, his eyes glistening though he held back his tears. "Yes. Goodbye, Amara. I wish you peace, but I can't go back." Amara's strength gave way. She turned and walked out his office, her heart breaking all over again. From behind the glass, David watched her go, his face filled with sorrow. And just like that, their love ended, not in anger but in silence. Weeks turned into months, but Amara never stopped thinking about him. She passed by his office sometimes, watching from a distance as he grew into the man she always knew he could be. Clients shook his hand with respect. His workers looked up to him. His life was moving forward without her. At night, in her empty room, she held the ring he had once placed on her finger, tracing its edges with trembling fingers. It no longer symbolized a future, but a haunting reminder of what she had lost. David, too, carried the memory. He built his dreams and found success. Though he smiled and laughed again, there were nights he sat alone, staring at the stars, remembering the woman who once made him believe in forever. But neither of them reached out again. Love had been real, powerful, and true, but trust had been broken, and once broken, it could not be rebuilt. Their paths had separated, but they both carried the memory of what they once shared. Amara lived with regret. David lived with scars. Amara learned her lesson too late. Love is not destroyed by poverty or distance, but by doubt and betrayal. Love is fragile, and its greatest enemy is betrayal. True love demands trust, and once that trust is broken, even the strongest love may never survive. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories.